I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. Before we begin today's episode, a very happy Thanksgiving to all of you. May you enjoy plenty of food, some family, some friends. If you want to rock solo, enjoy the time to yourself, enjoy the football. But we're here for you, and we appreciate you guys listening. Before we begin the episode, this is the Commanders at Cowboys Thanksgiving Day game preview. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Comment as you always do. And K-Dot,
share this shit.
Share this shit. And without further ado, let's get into it. So the Dallas Cowboys are our opponent this week. It is a Thursday game, a very quick turnaround from the beatdown we took to the New York Giants at home. Can we rebound is the big question. The Cowboys 7-3 on the season, 2 games back of the Philadelphia Eagles. They are currently chasing them, trying to get the 1 seed in the NFC, maybe the 2 seed, but they are currently going for that. K-Dot, this Dallas Cowboys team, is it any different from years past? They've had starts like this before, right? Where they're good against bad teams, then they play the big boys and end up losing. Is this year's version of the Dallas Cowboys any different?
Sort of.
Okay.
I think this is this is one of the best teams they've put out in a while. Is versus all around. That being said, you're right. They have lost to some of the upper echelon teams across this course this season, but 3 of those games, you'd say 2 against the upper echelon, and they were close. It's hard to tell. I think more than anything, what people are waiting for, and this is where you're not sure. Are the Cowboys going to do cowboy shit when it comes to playoff time? And that goes historically, right? You look back at since Troy Aikman got hit by LeVar Arrington, what has this team done? You think about Tony Romo fumbles and late game interceptions. Is this team different from that? It's yet to be seen. But I hate saying this, but do I have faith in this particular Cowboys roster to be a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And it's going to be an interesting game, actually, in my opinion. And we'll get to the predictions at the very end. The spread there, the Commanders are 12.5-point road dogs, which makes sense. The line makes a lot of sense. But given how our team operates, given how the Dallas Cowboys operate when the media is all over them in a good way, where they're just smothering them with love, things get interesting. So why don't we go ahead and jump?
Good job trying to make this episode seem like something people need to watch to be entertained.
Well, clearly my picks are trash, so I may as well become a better marketer of this. So why don't we go ahead and talk about the Dallas Cowboys offense, which has been on fire against a Washington Commanders defense, which has been on fire in helping the other team either catch fire or stay on fire. And so we're going to go ahead and begin talking about Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, and those guys. K-Dot, if I were to pick, let's take away Dak Prescott for a moment. It's easy to talk about the quarterback. If there is one weapon on the Dallas Cowboys offense that you're most worried about going off this week, who would it be?
You can only pick one.
You can only pick one. Trust me, we'll talk about all of them, but go ahead.
Power ranking, CeeDee Lamb, number 1.
CeeDee Lamb, number 1. Okay. And then who would be number 2?
Brandon Cooks.
And then who would be number 3?
Tony Pollard.
Okay. I think all those guys have the ability to go off on us.
That's the thing. Can I just name the rest of the roster?
Yes, you may. Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm not going, but it's everyone on this Cowboys team should be giving Washington's defense nightmares. Yeah, any one of them could go off, because if you look historically through us and what we've done defensively over the course of the season, any one of them could go off. Okay, so yes, they need to be fucking worried. As a matter of fact, when we're doing this particular segment, I actually want to say the best defense that Washington can have is actually the offensive running game, but we'll get to that. So yes, this is a scary, scary, scary matchup. Look, just to throw some, they are 5th in yards, 2nd in points. They have won 12 straight games at home going back to last season. Their average point differential in those wins is 18.
Wow.
What the fuck are we? Yes. Scary hours, buddy. Scary hours.
Oh my goodness. Those are actually some jaw-dropping stats, K-Dot. My
and
goodness.
They're true. I didn't make it up.
They are true. They are true. Let's go ahead and talk about Dak Prescott now. So we mentioned the weapons, of course. Dak Prescott this season has played quite well. You had even mentioned that, yeah, they have those 3 losses. The one against Philadelphia in particular for me, K-Dot, was it almost felt like a bit of a turning point in that was the best I had seen him play in a big spot in quite some time. They ended up falling apart at the end, but he also led them down the field to be able to get to that position. What have you made of his play this season?
It's Dak being Dak, man. Like it's the idea. It's like if you look at last season, the years previous to him, right? Which I know you asked about this season, but
Yes.
put it all in context.
Of course.
The idea that when they had Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, the biggest gripe that anyone had in watching the team is that they didn't run the football enough. And the reason they didn't, and the reason you had that gripe was not because anybody thinks Dak is not a great quarterback, or at least a really good quarterback. It's if you have him throw enough, he's going to fuck up. There is an element to Dak. If you have him, if you're just relying on him solely, every once in a while, he's going to throw a fucking a duck. And he's going to turn the ball over. Something's going to happen. You can't have him be the absolute defining driving force in everything that's happening on offense. And you thought, okay, they get rid of Ezekiel Elliott this last offseason. They have the Tony Pollard. You'd expect, okay, they got rid of the distraction running back. And Tony Pollard has not really blown anybody's skirt up this year as far as the running game, right? So, like, their offense is still one in which I think from a weapon standpoint, you add Brandon Cooks there to the mix. Once again, he hasn't had those bang out seasons.
He's getting really going though.
But he's getting going. And that's the thing is like, as the weeks have progressed, Dak has had weapons. And the thing is that I think Dak overall is understanding, at least conceptually, what it is that if he's dropping back and throwing the ball 50 times a game, that it's not necessarily going to be a recipe for success. So they run the ball regardless.
So the Cowboys continue to also get consistent offensive line play. You would now outline the various weapons that they've gotten: CeeDee Lamb, in Brandon Cooks, and in Tony Pollard. The final question, Kate, up before we flip the script and talk about the Sam Howell-led Commanders offense. Can we stop this offense that's averaging 30 points a game?
There's nothing I've seen that says that's going to be the case.
I'm in complete agreement with you. It would be a bit of an anomaly for this to actually occur.
It'd be damn near a miracle. It'd be a Thanksgiving Day miracle. Like that's where we're at, right? Like even if you're looking at Washington's best performances overall, as far as like everybody wants to look at like the Philadelphia games and like, oh man, we were really close. Philadelphia scored 30-something points in both of those games.
And
so,
they
like,
won both those games.
And they won both of them, right? So like if you're going to end up being in a shootout with them as we're transitioning over, you have not shown that you can win those. Right. Not with an offense as powerful as this and a defense playing as shit as we have. Once again, defensively for us, just pulling up the rankings real quick. 32nd in points, 29th in yards. The combination of both of those things, you're the worst defense in the NFL.
Yep. There's no arguing the numbers there. Now we could talk about feel and stuff like that in the predictions later on, but when we're talking about the statistics, it's clear as day. This is a great offense against a horrible defense, but we'll go ahead and flip the script and see what we can do on offense. Again, led by Sam Howell, offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, probably one of the most famous offensive coordinators at this current point in time, considering the Kansas City Chiefs are having their struggles, and we've got the NFL leader in passing yards in Sam Howell. But we're going against a talented defense. This is the best defense we have gone against all season, I believe, by the various metrics that you look at. You can pick any. The Dallas Cowboys defense is the best one we have gone up against, highlighted by, of course, Micah Parsons. But then there's also Deron Bland, who has an opportunity here to score another touchdown. And if he were to do that, he would set the NFL record for pick sixes in a season with a few games still left to go. K-Dot, on this side of the ball, are there any particular players on the Dallas side of the ball on defense that you are afraid of?
All of them. But
yeah, that's correct. But if we did the same power ranking thing, top 3.
Parsons.
Yep.
Just because he's clearly, if not, he's in that conversation as the most talented guy in all the defense in the NFL, right? He's in that Aaron Donald conversation, right? So like, yeah, that's the guy you would square in on and say, I'm afraid of him. The same way that like last week, Kayvon Thibodeau past a certain point was a dude that was a wrecking ball, right? So like there isn't, and the thing also with Micah Parsons is that they move him around so fucking much that he can really just look to, okay, where's the weak spot on this defense and what's going to have success? And then just beat that sumbitch like a drum. So like what gives me nightmares is the idea of seeing how, once again, love him as a person, love his wife, love the family, Charles Leno. If he starts having success against like Leno lineup, then they're going to say, keep at it, bud. And that is a recipe for an absolute disaster for us offensively.
Yeah, no, makes total sense. And then any worries about the secondary? Again, Deron Bland is like, my goodness, he is having one hell of a season. Trayvon Diggs goes down and we go, okay, cool. There's a chink in the armor and Dallas is going to struggle. They haven't. They miss him a little, but not nearly as much as I think people thought they would.
Dallas has given up 250 passing yards once this season, and that was the San Francisco 49ers. You want to know what the passing yard totals were for their last 2 games?
I would love
77 and 61. So one would say, okay, so what are you going to do? Right? So like, what can you do? Last week, for the first time this entire season, you saw Eric Bieniemy actually say, we're going to run the football. It's week 11. I wish that he would have figured that out sooner, but there was a commitment to the run last week, and they were fairly successful when doing it. It's just the turnovers and other things made it all a moot fucking point by the end of it, right?
Yeah.
This is a game in which I think that's going to have to be the recipe for success. If you go back to last season in Sam Howell's first start, we ran the ball over 30 times in that game. You did, and don't let anyone fucking tell you the Cowboys weren't trying to win that game. They were. The idea to me is that you have to stick with that. It not only, like we said previously, going back with the Washington Commanders defense, this is the best recipe that you could possibly have for any success against them, is to just stick to it, because you're also keeping the time possession in your court, which is to keep that Dallas offense, which we know less to do with the offense, more to do with our defense, can't stop a fucking thing. So you got to limit their abilities to do so. And how do you do that? You run. Yeah, beyond that, and stop me if I'm getting too long-winded, just looking at the offense as a whole.
Where's yours?
Sam Howell had a fucking abysmal game last game. It wasn't good. But if you look at the last time they had an abysmal game, it was the Buffalo game. And what he did in that Philadelphia game was he bounced back tremendously. Arguably one of his best performances, if not the best performance he's had this year. There is an element to Sam Howell in the sense of, okay, what are you going to see with that? And I don't know where that lines in Eric Bieniemy's head or Sam Howell's head, right? Are you going to give Sam the opportunity to show out based on what it is you saw last week? I don't think that's the proper way to go about it, just because I think the secondary than Dallas is fairly fucking talented. I wouldn't press the issue. I wouldn't press my luck. I would stick to the run. I don't know as far as the Antonio Gibson injury report update. I know that he was limited in practice.
He's been limited the past couple of days, yeah.
So if he can't go, whatever, they've got it. You got to run the ball, man, and it's got to be more along the lines of what you saw last week. And above all else, take care of the fucking football. Stop with and I know that doesn't seem like anything that somebody should say, right? Like, of course, it feels like I'm Booger McFarland out here saying, don't turn the fucking ball over and don't have penalties in those situations where it kills you, but you have to.
But K-Dot, that's sometimes you need to sound like that. Like when you look at the Kansas City game, it is truly as simple as catch the fucking ball for those wide receivers. If they do, Kansas City probably beats the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Sometimes it is that simple. And we have done this podcast for quite some time now, and we have been pretty heavy underdogs many times, and every single time it boils back down to time of possession and don't turn the ball over. You do those two things and you can win outright. It
gives you a shot.
It gives you a shot, right? So you can win outright as a heavy underdog. We did so against Philadelphia last season with Heineke, a number of third down conversions that were big, but it started with first and second down, allowing third and 4, third and 5, and then, to Heineke's credit, made that big play against the Eagles secondary at the time. to continue the drive. And we did it over and over and over. If you look at the intro of this video, it's Brian Robinson punching one in, right? For, a yard, and it's a touchdown. And all of a sudden we win that game. So in order to do it again, it is going to be a reversal of identity that we've had all season, which is why it feels unlikely, but it's going to have to happen. I completely agree with you there, K-Dot. In terms of turnover margin per game, we're giving the ball up around -1 per game. So we're only taking it away, let's say twice, and we're giving it away 3 times is the example I would put. But it's not been good. And Sam Howell currently, fun fact on him, on pace to lead the NFL in passing yards, in interceptions, and in sacks. This would be the first time ever a quarterback has led in all 3 categories.
There's a stat that I saw that on all Sam Howell's dropbacks, the percentage of turnover, whether it be fumble or whatever, based on the end of the play, is around 3%, which doesn't seem high. But when you think about how many fucking times he drops back,
it's insane.
That number gets way out of control.
Absolutely. So why don't we go ahead, jump over to the predictions, K-Dot, where once again, the Commanders are 12.5-point road underdogs on Thanksgiving Day against this Dallas Cowboys team that seems to be finding their groove. The over-under is at 48.5. From you, I need, as always, a score. I need a winner. I need a player of the game.
Look, I don't know. Washington right now at this particular point in time have their backs up against the wall. You got fucking embarrassed last week. One of the most, if not the most embarrassing loss in the Ron Rivera era. These guys are at this point where you're playing for pride. You're playing with your career. I mean, but these are all things that have been said pretty much all season long, and they haven't answered the call. 42-20, Dallas. Player of the game, CeeDee Lamb. Secondary can't stop him. Look, I don't want this to be true. I want these guys to show up. I want these guys to play with the pride. I think that it feels very lame duck of everybody right now. And I think that people are starting to check out. Prove me fucking wrong, guys, please. But I think this team just looks forward to having Thanksgiving dinner with their families and getting the fuck out of that stadium. So yeah, I think this might be a shellacking.
K-Dot, as a follow-up question in that case, 42-20, a shellacking, like you said, in Dallas, oftentimes this is the most viewed regular season game all year, right? It's Thanksgiving Day. Everyone's got the day off. They're at home. It's 4:00. What are you going to do? People just put the game on, even those that aren't fans. So everyone is going to see this game. Does Ron Rivera have a job on Friday? If that were to happen.
Nice, I don't know.
Okay.
If I had to put money on it, no. By Monday, no.
Okay. I also think it would be close, by the way, considering it's new ownership. It's an interesting situation right now. I'm also thinking it would be kind of a toss-up, even if it were to not go well on Thanksgiving Day. I'm going to say that we cover. I'm going to say that the game is actually close for a little while, but I do expect the Cowboys to pull away. Winning is a skill. These divisional games can be a bit of a toss-up sometimes. We just saw it. The Giants were struggling big time. All of a sudden, they come to our place and win. I don't see us winning outright, though. I think that our offense can put up points. I got us putting up 24 points, but the Dallas Cowboys are putting up 34, and that might be the minimum. So I've got the Cowboys 34, the Commanders 24, excuse me. Player of the game, I'll go Brandon Cooks. I'll go ahead and say that maybe we key in on CeeDee Lamb and really try and take away their number one, and your power rankings, everybody's power rankings, their number one weapon, and succeed in doing so. However, Brandon Cooks goes off, and Tony Pollard maybe has a rushing touchdown, and Dak is having a very comfortable day. I don't see us disrupting him that much. So that is my prediction. That is K-Dot's prediction. We're going to jump over to the comment mailbag now.
One point real quick. When we talk about going into last week's game and Washington, how you felt so confident we were going to win the game as far as taking care of the opponent that's ahead of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is the epitome of that. That's what I think the people, they are the absolute epitome. They played the Carolina Panthers. Are they better than the Panthers? Yes. What did they do? 33-10. They played the Giants. Are they better than the Giants? Fuck yes. 49-17. They put people away. And that 12 home game winning streak with a point total differential 18 means that these guys usually don't sleep on a fucking opponent. And that to me is, if there's anything Washington should do, learn from these motherfuckers that you're about to play against.
Yeah, I will say this to your point. The national media has a lot of fun when Dallas loses. We have a lot of fun when Dallas loses.
Absolutely.
But you got to give them credit in that they take care of business when they're supposed to. They're probably the best team at doing that. Heck, whenever I see their spread, I typically pick them when they're big favorites just because they take care of business. I've got a little bit of bias here. I've got the whole divisional rivalry thing in mind when I say we cover. I mean, every chance in the world we lose by 30 plus. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to go over to the comment mailbag as we always do. Thank you for that, K-Dot. That's a very important point on the Dallas Cowboys, where we have 6 comments, beginning with Tony.
Tony.
Shout out, Tony. We got 2 from him. The first one, firing the coaches now, so this would be that Monday right after the Giants game, shields the team from the Thanksgiving massacre. It helps justify why we got our brains bashed in Dallas. Appreciate the comment there, Tony. I think it lines up with what sort of K-Dot saying in terms of the prediction. This Thanksgiving massacre, 42-20 would be one. And so that's certainly one way to look at it. And then we go to his second comment. Also, this Giants loss is a win-win. Giants get further away from Caleb Williams and we get a better draft position. Actually have a bit of a thought on this one. Appreciate it, Tony. Oh, and there is a reply from a Giants fan, I believe Joseph Linnell. Apologies if I got the name wrong. Being a Giants fan, you could have Caleb. It's an interesting comment. I think
DeVito season.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? We love this guy. We love this guy. Tommy DeVito, chicken parm. Let's do it. I will say this, K-Dot. I am now, redefining the goal, but it's always been the same goal, is making sure that we have a quarterback moving forward, right? We don't know about this. We actually do know about this coaching staff. We're not big fans of theirs. But I want Sam Howell to be the guy here. I want Sam Howell to continue to show that he's capable of being the guy here. Because here's what's happening in the college football landscape, and it's starting to scare me, is Bo Nix in Oregon is playing very, very well. And I've seen him a lot at Auburn. I do not want us to even be in a discussion about drafting Bo Nix. And if our draft position gets better and he continues to play well at Oregon, and I'm contrasting that with what I saw at Auburn, and I know the Auburn one's going to be what he's going to be, I want to stay as far away from Bo Nix as possible. That's my thought on it. K-Dot, go ahead.
The Caleb Williams thing, who gives a shit? I don't think either team is really. If New York gets him, like, I'm afraid, because I don't necessarily. I like Caleb Williams as an athlete. As far as Sam Howell being the guy here, I think he's done enough to be the starter entering next season. Does that mean that I'm sold on him for long-term future success? No, but I do think he's done enough where I want to keep kicking the tires on it. And I especially want to see who the coaching staff or offensive coordinator is next year, and what that does as far as the development goes. But if it's not Eric Bieniemy, then I'm perfectly okay with at least some quarterback competition in this bitch.
Okay, just not Bo Nix, please. Anyway, we go ahead to Sauce2123. Shout out. Appreciate the comment here. Speaking of Sam Howell is just another Baker Mayfield to me. Not bad, but is he good enough to win a Super Bowl with? We need a quarterback that can win the game by himself sometimes at the end of the game. Stop calling him a rookie. He's got to sit and learn for a whole year before anyone decides to reply to my comment. I'm being so harsh because I felt a pick 6 coming. All right, well, appreciate the comment there. So clearly, I would say a bit of an emotionally charged comment to be able to. It was a rough loss to New York. You guys saw how I felt right after. We recorded the same day. Just a dejected intro. A dejected Amit. A-Train nowhere to be found. K-Dot.
The emotionality is your own fault. You're showing the unplaced fucking confidence in a team that has not shown you such. And that's the other reason why I think there's a possibility that we win the fucking Cowboys game. So
yeah, it's entirely possible.
Keep doing that, right? It's like you can't remove.
We're the most random team in the NFL. We're the most random team, arguably in all sports. No, yes, we are.
Random over the course of. Hold on, hang on. Random over the course of years, not random this season. They have not been random this season.
We've been losing those games. Yeah, we haven't had like what even is our signature win?
We don't have one.
Right. So to your point, I'm agreeing
So
with
if we're looking at this season with this particular cast of characters,
nothing.
They are who we are. We are who we are. Okay.
You're gonna make me change my prediction to a bigger beatdown. Let's go ahead and move on to James Ferguson.
I still think you're crazy as far as that fucking waiting around. You know,
backdoor cover, just to be clear. James Ferguson, shout out James, a host of ASOS, one of the hosts of ASOS.
Yeah, fuck him.
Other podcast. I understand your pain. How would you feel about this plan for next year? Jim Harbaugh as the next head coach, Eric Bieniemy as OC still, a new defensive coordinator, pick up Keenan Allen and offensive line via draft and free agency, a new offensive line via draft and free agency. Hate to admit it, but Allen is very underrated. K-Dot, I'm going to let you take that one first one because you know James better than I do. Although I do know James ran or can run a 4.2 or 4.3 40. And you mentioned Keenan Allen as well. Why don't you go ahead?
I like Keenan Allen. I'd appreciate him in any room. Same thing with like a Mike Evans. I think colossally underrated receivers as far as their careers go. I'd like to see them have success. As far as I'm playing franchise mode on Madden and just moving pieces around. Like
yes.
All right, cool. That sounds pretty. I like Jim Harbaugh to a certain degree as far as a head coach. I loved what he did in San Francisco when he was there. I know he has a tendency to rub a lot of people the wrong way sometimes. So I'm more interested in if Jim Harbaugh's here, I'm not for necessarily him having full control over everything because of that whole he rubs people the wrong way thing. I'm more concerned with who it is the GM is going to be here in Washington to make the decisions for everything. It's a harder, like if I had to rank between Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick and being in control of everything, I'd still choose Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think your point on GM makes all the sense in the world. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they're in our division. That's not about to change. Howie Roseman is running circles around everybody right now. And you are going to have to compete with somebody like Howie Roseman, right? You are trying to, the best avenue to making a Super Bowl is to first and foremost win your division. Of course, you want to win the conference, but you at least get a home playoff game. We are nowhere close to a home playoff game so long as Philadelphia continues to look like this. So you need a GM that is able to compete and be aggressive against currently the league's best general manager in Howie Roseman. So excellent call there, K-Dot. And I think a lot of people are overlooking that and looking purely at personnel and the coaching staff. An excellent GM makes all the difference in the world.
I think it's easy this offseason. The same reason that for weeks now I've been saying how excited I am for next year is because next year gives you kind of a clean slate to kind of do whatever it is you want to. And it's rare that you have those opportunities, but the amount of money that we have, the amount of draft picks that we have, the fact that
and
you have
excitement.
New ownership,
there's
excitement with it. So it's like, but that's the thing is like when you're hungry, you should never go grocery shopping when you're hungry, right? Because you
I
end
do it
up
all the
buying
time,
and
so I can attest. Do not.
And how much shit do you end up throwing out in a fucking week's time, right? Like
I'm not willing to answer that on this podcast at this time.
There needs to be a measured approach to this, and we have to understand and look at the teams that have the most success with it and realize that as much as the wish list for everything that we want, you want to get it now. There's a plan that has to be long-term that works for us, not just we want everything we wanted to. It's the same with like what
you got to
Darius Leonard just got dropped by the Indianapolis Colts.
Let's talk about that for a moment. A lot of fans are under the impression that we should get him off waivers. I want to quickly explain the difference between waivers and free agency. When you claim someone off of waivers, you're picking up their current deal. When you get someone off of free agency, there is no contract. You determine a new one. Now you might be going, oh man, we could lose Shaq Leonard, so we should claim him. You owe him $6 million the rest of the season. That's not a problem. Okay, that's very doable. It's the 3 years after that you need to realize he needs to be a culture fit. Well, what's the culture? We don't have one. So it makes no sense to bring someone in with $16 million due, $19 million due, and $19.5 million due the next 3 seasons, respectively. Okay, so that's what a waiver means. Don't do it. Then if it goes to free agency, why would he come here? It doesn't make sense. He should go to a contender. He probably will go to a contender. And even if he did come here, you'd have to overpay. And once again, what's the culture? Any other thoughts on the Shaq Leonard scheme?
We have no idea. Like,
no, we do know. Isaiah Hodgins told us.
Are we running a 3-4, 4-3? Who's the defensive coordinator? Like, what is happening? We don't have any idea what this defense is going to look like next year, and it makes no sense. If you got rid of Montez Sweat and you got rid of Chase Young, you're not bringing in other fucking bodies until you know who's going to be controlled.
It would honestly be one of the worst moves I've ever seen to get rid of those two guys and then go, but you know what? We need Shaq Leonard.
But see,
that
this
would
is a measure,
literally,
yeah. Go ahead. But that's a measured step, right? Like, yes, on surface level, I see that name. I think of David Mayo at linebacker. I'm like, do it.
Right.
I think you have to take a second.
Yeah. Anyway, then we go over to Jess Anto. Shout out Jess Anto. I seriously thought coming into this season, I thought our defense was going to be a top 5 to 10 defense again. Don't blame you. Don't blame you. A lot of talent on the defense, especially with the additions of Martin, Forbes, Henry Jones, and the return of Mathis. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way, and surprisingly, we went to last in the league. Defo was a huge loss, Dark Force. And then by the time they traded Young and Sweat, it was apparent that there was something far more wrong with the entire unit. The more I thought about it, I realized the missing piece to the defense was Scott Turner. His slow developing, coming his way down the field type style kept Del Rio's abomination off of the field. This is to the time of possession point that K-Dot was making earlier. I'm not going to say that K-Dot was saying we should have kept Scott Turner. That is very, very different. But this is the point that Jacinto is making. Accompanied by Heineke's dink and dunk arm, we always had these 12-play drives that ate up entire quarters. Then they'd usually stall out in the red zone. Then here comes EB and Howell moving up and down the field quickly or getting 3 and outs quickly, leaving the defense out there to be exposed. The truth of the matter is I'm an Allen and Curl fan, John Allen, Camp Curl, but I don't think they are true leaders. I'm falling apart in this comment. True leaders the D needed. I could not imagine Allen checking Young's attitude or Curl keeping the DBs in check. We always needed a dog middle linebacker that could command the defense and check the attitudes and assignments at the door. Thinking of Fletcher and Lewis. These linebacker coaches have swept this position under the rug and ignored it for years. That's why the middle linebacker is considered the quarterback of the defense. Shout out for the comment there, Jess Anto. K-Dot, your thoughts on it?
I've never wanted to disagree with the comment so more, but I agree with everything. The reason I only want to disagree with it is because it talks to the stupidity of this franchise in certain aspects, right? But it's look, I've been on the Jack Del Rio sucks train for a minute. And the reason I've been on the Jack Del Rio sucks train in a minute is the last 4 seasons that we've had him at defense coordinator and Ron Rivera head coach. These are the final defensive rankings for this team. 2nd, 22nd, 3rd, 29th. They are up and fucking down. A lot of it, yes, had to do with the offense and the time possession aspect of things. They rely on the athleticism of the defense, and it's getting exposed time and time again because you can't do that shit when dudes are getting up there in age. And you're right, as far as the leadership aspect. I talked about it in the last episode. There is an element of leadership when it comes down to dudes that have done stuff in this fucking league from a veteran standpoint, teaching guys that don't have never learned anything good because there's nobody good to learn from. Like, there's no one with a history of success really on this team outside of Eric Bieniemy, who, if I'm going to be completely fucking honest, as far as Eric Bieniemy, I know I'm going to offense for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Look
what the comment mailbag's all about.
Look in the whole organization. Who there has a history of success? The closest you can find is Eric Bieniemy. And look, I like Eric Bieniemy. I'm rooting for fucking Eric Bieniemy. But I'll tell you this. There is a certain element of Eric Bieniemy that I think every one of us kind of knows. It's the guy in the office that starts talking and starts doing some shit, and you realize that 30 minutes in, he's either completely full of shit or he really doesn't know what he's doing. Right? Like, there is an element of that when it comes to Eric Bieniemy. You can look, I can look at Terry McLaurin's fucking face from the moment he had that press conference with him where I'm so excited to work hard, do this, to now, something happened in the sense of I think they're losing faith in all of it.
I want to jump in because K-Dot made this point. We had stopped recording. We were chatting a little bit after, and K-Dot made this point, and then I decided to go back and see Terry at the press conference. And Terry, now, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a very strong episode from you today, by the way, K-Dot, where there is a visible difference in the attitude of some of our offensive players where they just look dejected. And this is with putting up the numbers that we're putting up, right? So there's clearly something there. Now we just need to see if we can get on track. Last comment, Blood Clot, shout out Blood Clot, as always. Also wanted to point out that our secondary coach is Brent Wieselmeyer. His last coaching stint was on a high school football team. Not saying it's all his fault. I still think this is all Jack Del Rio, but it is interesting to say the least. Shout out Blood Clot for the comment. Now, I will say this, that looking at Brent's resume, he used to work with Jack Del Rio back in Oakland. So this is very much you can call it a buddy hire, especially when you consider he didn't stay in the NFL for that much longer. He went to high school, right? So I think it's fair to say if the coach is that good, they would still have a place in the NFL. Del Rio brings him back. We lose Chris Harris to the Tennessee Titans, who is our former secondary DBs coach. And here we are with Darius Slayton running wide ass open. K-Dot,
trying to pull up something.
Sure.
When Jack Del Rio was in Oakland, the defense never ranked over 20.
That's exciting.
That's it.
And we've had a culture in the past of these buddy hires, right? And this happens in the NFL, but we happen to hire the ones that are in the 20s. So we had Jay Gruden and Jim Haslett, for example, where people were not particularly thrilled with Jim Haslett's defense over here, but he stuck around because Jay Gruden was coming in and they were buddies. So like we've had these buddy hires before. It's not like they're top 5 buddy hires. These are just bad ones in general. So to say that we don't think it's going to happen in the future, I think would be incorrect. But let's just get the top tier buddies, if you will, because this one clearly, you see it every Sunday and now on Thursday does not work. Absolutely,
there's not a universal thing or checklist to look at to know that somebody's going to come here and have success, right? But there are some things you can look at for a checklist and realize this guy might not have success. Like the idea that like you can hire a young mind that is excited about football and has ideas that they want to install, but sometimes it goes bad. Look at Brandon Staley there in fucking LA, right? So like, but then more often than not, at least you have some excitement, and there are some guys that maybe and then we can see whether or not it'll work out or not. You have times where it does work out, in which case like Sean McVay, or very close to working out like a Kyle Shanahan. Then you have the old heads, like the Andy Reid stuff like that. If you're going to hire an old head to be a head coach, you're looking for dudes that might not have had certain things break their way, but have a certain philosophy and a sustained success, right? So like Andy Reid could never get over the hump in Philadelphia, right? It was always right there at the cusp, but he was right there. So there is an element of, all right, what can you do to add to that to take him over the edge? And it's worked out for Kansas City. But then you have a lot of these dudes get rehired that have been mediocre to just above mediocre for a very long time. And there's an idea that they're going to flip the script. And it doesn't usually happen that fucking way. It just doesn't. You either have it or you fucking don't have it. That being said, do I think Ron Rivera was the right hire at the right time? Absolutely.
Yes.
We had fucking no cachet in this league to go get somebody of note. No one wanted to fucking come here. And you got to remember that. No one wanted to come here. Even if you look at the Gruden era with the coaches and the assistants you had, there was so much fucking backstabbing since the Shanahan era. Most of these dudes, if given the opportunity to be a head coach, would not have fucking taken it. So like there needs to not be a revisionist history around this shit. There has to be an acknowledgement of where it is we are. Now, when you have a Josh Harrison, you got a new owner, you got a ton of fucking cap space, you got to sell it. You got to sell that this is something to be excited about and that we're going to get rid of the shit from the previous fucking era to give you something fresh and to give you something new. This is what to be excited about. This is why even if every fucking sack that Chase Young has feels like a fucking knife to my gut. But I'll tell you this, there's not a single person in that locker room and that front office in this organization that I wouldn't say bye to if it gives me a true clean slate and allows someone to come in here and to instill something new. I'll get rid of every last one of them. I love them, but sometimes you got to say goodbye.
Look at the macro, not the micro. I think that was excellently said, K-Dot. And it needs to be said one more time. And maybe this is for the last time. We don't know. But Ron Rivera was not just a football hire. It was also a culture, a reset hire. And you got to give him credit where it's due. That culture was reset. It was in a nasty, nasty place. And you look at it now, just remember that. Just remember that.
Yep.
This is District Divided, DC Sports Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Really appreciate it. I am Amit. That is K. Once again, a very happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Please enjoy the day. Please relax. Hopefully the game is fun. We both predict a loss, but I don't know. Thanksgiving Day miracle. It's happened before. Let's see if it happens again. K. is out on it.
Yeah, I gotta give. Here's my This is my warning for everyone.
Okay.
If you have a therapist, keep them on fucking speed dial for Friday. Do not. You're going to be around family. This is going to be a lot for a lot of people under normal circumstances to handle, right?
This is a good warning. I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Thanksgiving can be a stressful day enough, right? We are most likely going to get our fucking asses kicked. Your fucking text thread that you have with your buddies, some of them which are Cowboys fans, silence that shit. Do not go on Twitter, do not go online, and do not take it out on your family.
That's the biggest one.
Do everything you can not to take it out on your family. I don't want to hear that there was a spike in domestic disturbances in the DC metro area come tomorrow. Do not let this team, do not let this franchise ruin your fucking life, okay? It is going to be high. And look, if I see what Amit was able to do, or what y'all motherfuckers were doing in the comment section after that Giants loss, get the fuck out of here when Dallas runs that guy, when they fucking shove that football down our fucking throat. Prepare yourselves. Prepare for the fucking worst. If that means after they score 21 unanswered points, you need to turn the fucking TV off if you can't handle it, turn the fucking TV off, okay? It's Thanksgiving. It's family. Prioritize. This season doesn't matter. Do not get it caught. Do not let it catch you up on some bullshit.
That is the best point you have made all year. And I think it's very important that you said that because that's the best point you made all year. So please don't take it out on your family because this is probably going to be a massacre. So just keep it separate. They didn't do it. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't fumble. They didn't miss the tackle. Please remember that.
Now, if it's that family member that does wear cowboy shit just to annoy everybody, fuck him up. Don't worry about it.
I'm Amit. That's K. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Comment as you always do. And K.
Share this shit, especially the last part.
Especially the last part, because we're out here trying to save lives. Make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble. No time for after the pod today because we're up against a hard stop, but we will see you guys after the game. Until then, take it easy.
Peace, everybody.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.